Hello everyone, my name is Rhiannon from Blue Dog Board Games, and today we're going to be doing something just a little bit different. I wanted to make a video about my upcoming and incoming Kickstarter, Zoo Tycoon the board game, just because I am so excited to receive it. So the whole reason that I have just made this video is simply because I'm so excited for it. I sometimes feel that because everyone's lives are so busy, mine included, between the time when you back a game and ultimately receive it and unpack it, that excitement can definitely drop. I think that is a real shame because who doesn't love feeling that excitement and anticipation of a game? So upon hearing that Zoo Tycoon, the arrival of this one is just around the corner, I wanted to refresh myself of the details of the game, reread all of the information that we know about it, and ultimately just produce this video so I can get excited and share my excitement with you all. I do definitely want to say that this is in no way a sponsored video. I am not affiliated with Treecer Games or Zoo Tycoon or the production of this game in any way. All of the opinions that you will hear are my own, and all of the information that I have obtained and will speak about today is something that I have found through Kickstarter, reading through all the updates on Board Game Geek and various videos. And so if any of it is incorrect, it may just be outdated information. It's just meant to be a bit of fun and excitement and to give you an overall fun idea of what the game could be like when you soon receive it. Again, some of the pictures also may be outdated. They may be prototype components or ones that are not the finalized product. So just a quick intro about the game. This is a game that has been designed by Marc and Samuel Luterbacher at Treecer Games. This is a Swiss company, and this has been based on the original video game series that was released by Microsoft in 2001. And I believe that they have been able to get the original license for the game, so this is allowed to be published as a Zoo Tycoon board game, and hopefully this is going to encapsulate all the excitement and love that everyone felt playing those games as a child. Being a big fan of the original game as a child, I had the original as well as the dinosaur expansion and the marine animal expansion. Loved playing with all of those on my PC as a kid, and I cannot wait to see how this is tied into a board game and to get that overall feel of managing a zoo. This game is finished production and is currently being shipped all around the world as we speak, and I am so excited to get my hands on it. So just to go over a little bit about what we know about this game so far. This is a game that is played in 7 rounds, and each of the rounds, which represents a year, is split into seasons. This is a large 1 to 4 player game, and players are working towards building up a zoo, laying tiles on their enclosure boards, breeding animals, exchanging animals at the animal exchange, and managing your income, running costs, conservation status and popularity to ultimately become the most successful zoo manager. This appears to be a very intricate game where you are ultimately concerned with the overall happiness of your animals and their individual behaviours. So when bringing animals into your zoo, you do need to be mindful of a number of different factors. So for example, you need to be mindful of their sex, how that affects their social group, their tolerance to coexist with other species, the amount of space they need, their need for shelter, the overall group size, and even the experience your zoo has with that particular species. It appears to be a really multi-layered game, and it really seems to have a heavy focus on managing a zoo with animal welfare in mind and at the forefront of everything that you do, and I think that's just fantastic. The game even stretches so far as to sort of take into account the happiness of animals when they breed. So animals will only breed if they have reached a certain level of happiness, and also the animal's maternal instincts. So some species are very maternal and will not breed while they are still bringing up an offspring, and this game does take that into account and say there may be a round or two where a female will not breed for that reason. They are looking after their baby. There seems to be an awful lot of depth to every single part of this game, really maximizing on the overall health and happiness of the animals, and I just absolutely love that part of it, and I cannot wait to get stuck into this game. So as mentioned, this game is played over 7 rounds, and each of the rounds, which represents a year, is split into seasons. So you start off the game, I believe, in summer, but usually a round would begin in spring. In spring, event cards are revealed, and they may have long effects or immediate effects, and also during the season offspring are born. As long as you have a male and female of a species and they are happy enough, you can roll dice to see if the breeding was successful, and if so, buzz is generated in your zoo, which can increase the popularity of your park and ultimately your overall revenue and profit that you make. Once you are done with spring, you then move into summer, and this is where players can trade animals at the animal exchange. And this season mimics how animals are traded in reality between zoos. No money is actually paid, but instead trades of animals are set up. Animals from your own zoo can only be offered for trade if there is sufficient demand for that animal, and equally you may only obtain some animals in trade if you are shown to exceed happiness levels in some other species and actually have room for them in your zoo. There is so much to consider here. It feels like a very realistic and lifelike management game, and I really appreciate that. I think looking at all the rules, it really seems to reflect the feel of the Zoo Tycoon original video games. In autumn, this is where you build new enclosures to be ready to welcome new animals into your zoo, or you may choose to expand the enclosures that you already have. Not only are you looking to build enclosures for your animals, you may enhance your zoo with other buildings such as parks, education booths and conservation centres, which in turn increase your popularity, education and conservation status of your zoo. Finally, commercial buildings may also be built to enhance your overall revenue, and during autumn as well, you may choose to take out a loan, which can just help you build new enclosures and various other aspects of the game if you are struggling with money. Finally, the year ends with winter, and this is like a more admin phase. So this is where players calculate their taxes, your overall revenue, and basically just set up for the next round of the game. Each player has a set of 3 staff meeples, and these can be used during certain seasons to give you certain effects, basically. For example, in spring, you can provide contraception to a species to stop them breeding. In summer, you can increase your trading capabilities or enhance the number of trades that you can make with animals. In autumn, you can use the staff meeples to move enclosures or buildings around your park if you find that they are in awkward places. Once all 7 rounds have been played, the winner is the person with the most points after taking into account conservation, popularity, offspring, and overall animal welfare. There is also an introductory game set of rules that can hopefully strip out a few of the more convoluted sets of rules and just make your first game a little bit easier. And they also have variations for a 2-player setup variant, so hopefully that will enhance the 2-player or lower player count games to give it a more balanced feel. So that's the basics of Zoo Tycoon the board game. Now I want to talk about what we know about the solo mode. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this game was not sort of designed with a solo mode in mind. The solo mode came about as part of the Kickstarter campaign. Reading some of the updates, it looks like the designers of the game are not solo players at all, and they are not really familiar with a lot of solo games and the modes. From what I understand from the updates, they brought in a designer of solo modes, pretty well known from what I understand, and they had designed a full automa for this game, and the designers of Zoo Tycoon came into the office to try this mode out and were quite impressed. However, it does seem like the solo mode that has finally made it into the game is a stripped back version of it. It appears that this is a sort of semi-automa, which has a beat your own score part where you are comparing your overall final score with like a table of points, but it also has some interactive elements with an automa type component to sort of interact with what you're doing a little bit more and change games up in a certain way. So I am hoping that this is going to be a pretty solid mode with a good amount of complexity, puzzle, as well as some like competitive strategy. But it will be interesting to see this mix and how well it works. In addition, during the campaign there was a mention of some solo campaign stories being made and implemented into the final game, and unfortunately it is unclear as to whether they have been sort of pushed through to fruition. I'm not sure whether they have materialized in any which way. I do know that during the campaign the solo mode was uploaded onto Tabletop Simulator, and feedback was asked for the solo mode, and so I don't quite know what happened after that as to whether this did lead to the creation of some solo scenarios and whether this led to the final conclusion that the semi-automa was the best possible outcome for the solo mode. It is a bit unclear as to the thought process that led to that final decision. So overall it is a little disappointing from my point of view. I would have liked to have seen maybe a mix of solo modes and maybe give us everything that they had, so the full automa that was designed as well as like the semi-automa, or even a stripped back full beat your own score variant. I feel like it seems like they're all quite similar enough to have been implemented all at once into 3 different variations. And it is also disappointing that it doesn't seem like those solo scenarios did come to fruition, but if they did sort of get them designed to some extent, maybe that is something that they could release to us at a later date, and I would love to see what the board game community could do with them. Unfortunately, I wasn't actually part of the Kickstarter campaign just because the UK shipping and taxes during the time the campaign was running was a little bit in question. It wasn't certain whether there would be additional costs, so it wasn't until after the campaign had finished that I got involved, and so I missed out a lot on the testing and the feedback for the solo mode, and that was a bit of a shame because I would have liked to have been involved in that, but we'll see how it comes out. Looking at the rules, however, it does seem to be a pretty solid and well thought out solo mode, and I'm sure that they have had good feedback from a lot of the solo community that did get involved during the campaign, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they've done with it. It really does appear to sort of reflect the feel of a multiplayer game just through the rule set alone, and so I really hope that it does provide quite a challenging, puzzly experience that is very satisfying. So now I just wanted to talk about the game in general and what we know about the components, because this game is an absolute stunner. It is gorgeous. So the components are going to be a really big draw in this game. There are at least 23 different species that are represented as wooden meeples in this game. These are included as unique wooden meeples, and each of the species have unique shapes, and they may also include differences between the male and female animals. And also in the deluxe version of this game, the meeples are screen printed, with differences once again in the male and females. The final stretch goal reached was the addition of giraffes to the game, but other animals that are include Bengal tigers, elk, black rhinos, zebra, red pandas, African lions and Asian elephants, to name just a few. And what I thought was really cool looking through all the designer diaries as part of the Kickstarter campaign is that they also checked that all the components were as colorblind friendly as possible. I believe that they had an app which simulated the 4 most common types of colorblindness and really tried to enhance the colors as much as possible to give a really good contrast to ensure that this game is approachable to everybody. And I just think that is so fantastic. This day and age to sort of not only design your game as well as possible, but trying to be as inclusive to everyone as possible is just wonderful to see. The scoring board and staff boards are also dual layer, and this prevents components moving around when knocked, and each part of the game is also due to have just unique and beautiful artwork. Some of the artwork is just absolutely stunning, and it's just exciting to see it all pulled together into one piece of art. The storage solution for this game is something that was thought about in quite a bit of detail throughout the campaign if you have a look through all of the updates. I will talk a bit more about the company's overall environmental perspective a little bit later, because that is something that's very close to my heart. But I will just talk about the final decided upon storage solution for this game. The final storage solution decided upon includes 33 cardboard tuck boxes, and these come in 2 sizes and have specific printed designs on them to represent what is meant to be included in that particular box. The final storage solution provides room for sorting and storing all of the meeples as required, and also room for all of the cards, which can include sleeved cards if you so desire it. This means that each player has a tucked box specifically for their player components. Each species and the buildings have their tuck boxes, and these are all stored in the box themselves, and the boards are laid on top to prevent all of the bits and pieces moving around. These tuck boxes can also be removed from the box and then just put on the table to provide an easy way to move components around the table and store them as you play. Interestingly, the designer of the game has said that he has tried laying all the boards on top and tipping the game on its side, and he has said that the components did not move around too much and it is a pretty stable solution. So it will be interesting to see how true that is, because I do tend to prefer to store my games on this side, and I'm just not 100% convinced that cardboard is going to be the best solution for that. But I am very excited to see if that is a good solution, because if it is, then I don't think there's much excuse really for plastic to be used in much capacity in the future. Of course, it's much more durable, but from a sustainability point of view, cardboard is just so much more superior. The game has also been translated into multiple languages and is currently being published in English, German, Czech, Chinese and Japanese, and I understand that Spanish, French, Italian, Dutch, Polish and Hungarian translations of the rules are going to be available, but they are only going to be as like digital rule books and not as printed rule books. They have advised during the Kickstarter campaign that the deluxe edition of Zoo Tycoon will only be available as part of the Kickstarter campaign, with maybe a couple of leftover copies being available on their website. The deluxe edition of the game has got the screen printed meeples. I believe that is the only difference between that one and the retail edition. The retail edition, however, should be available at very selected retailers in the near future, as well as directly from Treecer's website. So I just wanted to now talk about why specifically I'm so excited for this game. In this game, I think there appears to be a really good selection of a wide variety of mechanisms that really seem to interlink very well. So you've got your tile laying for your enclosures on your boards, you've got dice rolling for the animal breeding phase, you've also got some very careful manipulation of your income, management of your popularity and buzz in your zoo, as well as you have to manage your taxes and your costs involved, because there is a cost associated with running your zoo as well. So just looking at that alone, I think that this seems like a very realistic management game and really seems to capture the feeling of Zoo Tycoon, the video game, and how tight and resource managey that seems to be as a whole, and ultimately you are trying to maximize the happiness of all of your animals whilst carefully managing all those aspects. And I think that this could be a really realistic and interesting and deep simulation of that sort of game. I'm really interested to see how buzz and popularity are linked in the game, because what it seems like is that your popularity sort of stays quite stable during the game, but your buzz is what is very short term and can be affected by things like events and short term goals, like maybe an offspring being born. And ultimately your buzz and your popularity are very much bouncing off each other. So the more your buzz is increasing, your popularity is pushing up. But at the end of the year, I believe your buzz resets. And so I'm really interested to see how that feels in the game, and trying to push up your buzz, or are there ways to push up your popularity separately, which it isn't linked to your buzz. And I think that's a really interesting mechanism and really feels quite exciting to see work alongside each other. So of course this game is going to be compared to Ark Nova in some capacity. They are both zoo related games, animal related games, and it'll be interesting to see ultimately how different they are. From the looks of it and from my own research, they do appear to be very different games. Ark Nova is very much quite a far removed from animals type game, so it's not really focused on what animals you have in your park. It's more to do with set collecting specific symbols and animal types to satisfy certain conservation criteria and push up those points, whereas Zoo Tycoon very much looks to be focusing much more on the individual animals, their needs and requirements, and how they interlink with their overall happiness and overall park population and conservation. It really seems like this game, Zoo Tycoon, has much more depth and strategy and deep meaning to this game than an Ark Nova, and it seems like there may be a lot more luck in Ark Nova according to the card draw, and I think the luck factor in this game is going to be much more minimal. I do absolutely love Ark Nova, and I love the solo mode of Ark Nova, but I am very excited for Zoo Tycoon to just see this game explore zoo themes in a very deep and different way. And of course, I cannot sort of talk about my excitement of this game without mentioning the meeples. The animal meeples are just stunning. The artwork on them, the fact that the color differences are there, they're all individually shaped, and the screen printing on them, they just look amazing. And it's something that I think would appeal to me even if I wasn't interested in the game. It would be something that catches a lot of people's eyes, and I think this one is going to have quite a lot of table presence. Now, I did say I wanted to talk a little bit, just a tiny bit, about the company themselves, Treecer, Marc and Samuel. These two, I believe, are very, very interested in the environment and conservation, and that is something that is at the core of their company. This is something that really stood out to me in the campaign, because it's something that I hold quite dear and I battle with quite a lot, because I feel like in the board gaming hobby, and especially as I'm becoming more involved with content creation, it's very associated with Cult of the New and trying to churn through as many board games as you possibly can. And I sometimes get a little bit, I battle with that a little bit because I don't find myself, I think that's quite a negative thing, but it's very difficult to sort of contain that when you're in that industry and when you're doing these sorts of content creations. So Treecer only produce products that are made from FSC certified or recycled sources, and they also go as far to avoid the use of plastic in all of their products wherever possible. This is demonstrated in this game. They did design a plastic insert for Zoo Tycoon, but ultimately they decided that they wanted to go down the cardboard route. This was not the cheaper option by any means that they advised. In fact, the cardboard was a lot more expensive. But from a conservation and sustainability point of view, cardboard is just the better option. They don't want to use the plastic. And in one of their updates as well, they did say if you can not sleeve your cards, don't sleeve your cards, but of course that is down to personal preference. In addition to this, all carbon dioxide produced in the fulfillment of this campaign and the production of the product is completely offset with the Swiss Foundation My Climate. That is just absolutely fantastic, and I'm quite blown away by the stance that this company has taken. It's really sort of hit me in a way that it's just made me appreciate this game so much more and alleviated this game's excitement to me in a different level. I have not seen another company sort of take this stance and really run with it as far as they have. A lot of companies have money, of course, at their forefront of their mind, but it's really nice to see that in this case, actually, the environment and the world is the most important thing here, and ultimately that's something that I really appreciate and I wish everyone would do because it's so important. So thank you to Treecer Games. I think that is a brilliant company, and I really appreciate everything you're doing, and I hope everyone else does as well. So from a fulfillment point of view, this game has finished production and is currently being shipped around the world and will be received in fulfillment centers very shortly. If you were interested to know the specific details of the region you're in, you are able to have a look at the Kickstarter updates, and Marc gives very, very detailed information about all of the areas of the world that it's being shipped to. Here in the UK, however, the pallets are going to be directed into the UK from Switzerland. I believe that they are going to be fulfilled once received in the UK. Zatu Games are going to be activating all of the fulfillment for them. In the UK, hopefully we are going to be receiving our games from early to mid-October. So overall, this is a game that I am absolutely so excited about, as hopefully you can tell and see from the production of this whole video. I cannot wait to get this played. I cannot wait to see all of how everything pulls together, how the mechanisms interlink, and of course how this game looks on the table, because the components look just absolutely gorgeous. All of the artwork looks stunning, and it's going to be a real standout piece in my collection. In addition to that as well, I can really see the care and attention that this game has been given from the designers and the attention to detail that they have had all throughout their campaign. The Kickstarter updates that they have been giving backers has been consistent, detailed, and full of information, and they are really receptive to a lot of feedback as well. There's been a lot of discussion back and forth with backers and them to really hopefully produce the best possible product that they can. If you were interested in knowing a little bit more about the company or Zoo Tycoon, I will pop the links down below for the company themselves and the Kickstarter campaign. So thank you very much for watching this video today and sharing my excitement for the upcoming Zoo Tycoon board game. I hope you're excited as I am. Let me know down below if you have this one incoming, or if it's even on your radar, if you'd heard of it and what you thought of it and your initial impressions. Hopefully I will be sort of releasing like a thoughts video on the game as well. It may be in my like solo vlogs at some point. I think it's going to be a little bit big in scope for a playthrough, as I understand there is quite a hefty time associated with this game. I think it does tend to lend to a longer playthrough, and that's not something that I tend to have the time for. But I'm very much looking forward to talking about this game again on the channel. So thank you very much for watching today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, please consider subscribing to the channel and you will be let know of any future releases that I do. Otherwise, have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.